Hi everybody, thanks for tuning in. My name is Pav and today I'm going to be talking about how you can become a complete cyclist, which is something I reference frequently, whether that is in my book, The Guide to Truly Effective Cycling, or in any of my blogs and videos. So I do reference an awful lot of my other content within this. I'm going to make sure that if you are on my YouTube channel, I'm going to leave that in the description with all the links, and also if you're on my website, then in the blog that's going to be below this video, you'll be able to find all of the links so you can do a bit more reading and researching into what the heck I'm going on about. So I talk about this complete cyclist. Another word for it would be holistic. I think that traditional coaching is a bit more linear in terms of looking mainly at the performance element. A lot more coaches over the last few years have been looking at nutrition as well, and I think that as well as myself, I've been big on the mentality of training for many years. I think that's becoming a bit more popular for coaches that to start to look at their clients as their mentality being totally unique, because it really is. That's the thing, is the biggest variant in all of this is your mentality. So understanding who you are in that scheme of things is going to make sure that you have a lot bigger and longer lasting improvements in your cycling performance. So for me, when we start all of this, if you're looking at this as yourself and you want to make sure you're looking at the holistic picture of your training to make sure you're complete and you're not forgetting something as you train for your goals, the day one thing is goal setting. And you're tying that commitment around are your goals accurate? Can you accurately commit and sacrifice enough for them? And once you've got those goals set, and you're going to create like an annual training plan, an ATP, and realize what you've got, what time you've got, and what time you can then put into each individual demand of the event. Now, the demands of the events are really important. Now, I talk about this quite a bit. You should really spend a considerable time or some time on looking at your event, right? Because every event is quite different. You're going to have two different sportives. Maybe one has got like several hundred, less than 1,000 people, and then another one can be down 10,000 people. So the demands of that are completely different. The things you might need to train for could be completely different. Especially when we look at that completeness, the performance element might be very similar, but actually, trying to ride an event with 1,000 people or less is completely different to trying to ride an event with 10,000 people, because the busier event, you're going to have people coming backwards and forwards. It's almost certainly on closed roads, whereas the 1,000 might not be. So there's all these different things you've got to make sure that you're capable of. So that's when you can look at the demands of what you need to be, what your weaknesses are, and plan that training. So that kind of takes care of the train, but you also can see where that technique and tactics might come in. That's a massive part of it. Not just talking about pacing plans or race tactics if you're racing, but also stuff like can you ride in a group? Can you eat and drink on the bike? How is your descending? Stuff like that. All of these little things you should really be looking at in minute detail, being objective with where you are. No shame in being like, oh yeah, I'm terrible at descending, as long as you work to improve it. So that is that really big important point on that. And I think that I touched on nutrition. Definitely personalize your nutrition strategy. We each eat differently. We have different circumstances. You might have your kids that need to eat something. A husband or wife that needs to eat a certain way as well. Especially in a household with kids and a non-athletic partner, you might be having to think about your nutrition in a completely different way, especially if you're the person that prepares the meals as well. And if you're not preparing the meals, you might need to do some kissing ass to for your partner if you need something special. But definitely look at yourself and your nutrition, what that looks like, tie it in with your training, periodize it if necessary. Really focus on exactly what your nutrition needs to be, what is realistic for you to sacrifice. Like, if you no point in chasing perfection, but the closer you can get, the better you're going to perform, the better you'll recover. But you're only human, so your kids are going to want to go out to McDonald's, and sometimes you're going to forget to take food or anything like this. You're gonna slip. The worst thing is to beat yourself up when you slip. So have an expectation around what you can do, and accurately set your goals around that. So a really big interesting one for me is hydration. Now most people just think hydration is about drinking water. Some people understand that actually you need to replenish electrolytes, mainly sodium in that, but that's pretty much what people get stuck at. They just think that they drink and that's it. When in actual fact, we do have a completely wide array of different hydration needs, and these are the reason why you personalize a hydration plan. So one of the things I like to work with my clients is helping them develop that plan, and we could use sweat testing or just feedback along that, perceived thirst indexes, and even tie in some testing with my good friends at Precision Hydration, and really work to look at that. So don't just think that hydration for you is going to be drinking water, maybe some sodium in there, or even electrolyte tablets. Seriously look at what actually is needed for you and build a strategy around that. So recovery, again, is super personal. A lot of that is kind of obvious. For me, sleep's the number one, but some people respond differently to different sort of recovery stimulus. Some people really like massage, some people don't like it too much, and other people would prefer to just spend some time stretching, foam rolling, percussion instruments or air compression, trousers, stuff like that. I think that it's really is individual, and I think that you do need to have that recovery mindset. So I again, especially if you've got a job that you're on your feet all day, or a desk all day, you're going to have different types of fatigue, and I think that just having that personalized recovery strategy in place is going to really help you just get to know what works for you, and then obviously increase the adaptation that your body sees, which is ultimately the end goal of the training. So like I said, your mentality is totally unique. That's the biggest variable in all of this. So there's going to be things that you should be thinking about factoring in. Motivation is a really funny one. It's like you don't miss it until it's gone, and then once it's gone, you almost don't want to get it back. That's the biggest problem with motivation, is you do need to keep topping it up. How you do that is really individual. Some people like posting pictures in places where they need to keep motivated. Maybe that's of their goal, like of your Gran Fondo. Maybe it's a picture of that. Maybe you've done one before. It's a picture of you celebrating at the finish line. If it's weight loss, maybe it's an ideal number of the weight you want to be, or if it's power, you might put down what you want a certain power number to be. It's going to motivate you. So you could do a dream board. You can even use affirmations, where you would talk to yourself. This is pretty much what affirmations are, in order to boost your sort of mentality around that. Meditation is something I go on about all the time, but it has to be unique to you. It has to be something that you buy into. The biggest thing that people tend to get wrong is just doing this without buying into it, without there being that emotional attachment to it. You don't see the results in a short period of time. We know we're hardwired for instant gratification as human beings. And the thing with training your mentality is that it does take a longer period of time. And if you have that expectation that's going to happen in a short period of time, you don't see those results, and you haven't fully bought into the idea of training your brain, you are just going to quit doing that. And I think that that's a big shame, because then you're going to get closer to your event, the training's going to get hard, you're going to start doubting yourself. And then ultimately, that's why a lot of athletes quit and then don't achieve their goals, is because they've had all of this, these worries and concerns, and their egos said you're not going to be able to do it, and they think it's easier to quit than to stick it out. So if you're that person and you don't know where to start with that, definitely reach out, because that's something that I'm really passionate about, and I can guarantee that I can help you level up considerably on this. So something that I'm big on in my coaching is making sure that my clients understand, what they're looking at in terms of their data, what I'm looking at, what it is that reason why we're training this, or why we do that. And I think that really does start with kind of day one, understanding what your power meter is doing if you're using that, or your heart rate monitor, really getting used to that. Like the biggest thing that I see with a lot of amateur athletes that aren't coached is they don't know how to use their power meter specifically, not calibrating or zero offsetting that before starting every ride, if that's what your power meter needs. And then over a longer period of time, that data ends up being either overinflated or underinflated, because it's just become tracking it less and less accurate. So obviously all of this typically is focused around you as in training, I do recommend you have everything around this also figured out for your race day. So your nutrition and day to day is going to be different to your nutrition on race day. And I think it's really important that as you do train to your body in a similar way as you get closer to the event or your goal, as you would that actual goal or event, you do that with your nutrition too. And that's just one example of having that, you know, holistic look. It's great to have a nutrition plan and have a diet in place that works for you, supports your training and recovery. But you also need to be complete at the event itself. And that does look like having that nutrition hydration strategy. Similarly, like I talked about, the techniques and tactics, talked about, you know, the technique of being able to descend, climb, ride in a group, eat and drink on the bike. Tactics as well, for me, pacing is a really big one. Understanding, you know, not to go out in the heat of the moment, in excitement and everything, and, you know, burn all your matches on the first climb is really important. And that's a big mistake that a lot of, you know, newbie athletes tend to do. You know, we all want to be, you know, have like, you know, 100% improvement on our race day, but it's not realistic. So you just have that pacing strategy, work it out in training, and then follow it on the day. Same with nutrition, don't do anything different on the day. The other thing you might look at, obviously, is, you know, how your bike fits to you. That's something that I recommend you do every year. You know, our bodies are constantly changing, and ultimately, you know, you might find, you know, improvements by having a yearly bike fit, even if it is small in amounts, especially as we get older, and our flexibility tends to get less and less. Having a, you know, different bike setup, bike geometry will really benefit you. So again, that's a massive part, something that I recommend you do frequently. And you know, that's it. You know, that is the complete holistic cyclist that I like to work with my clients. It's, you know, it's on paper or, you know, in a video, it might not seem like a lot, but actually when you start to write it down and look at, you know, each individual phase and how you're going to train that, it can be quite overwhelming. So have no fear. I think that's why a coach is an invaluable person to engage with when you're doing something like this. So you know, fill out the consultation form. 15 minutes, always free with me. No obligation to continue working with me. If we're not a right fit, I can recommend another coach who is also excellent coach. Might not be as good as me, but you know, I only know good coaches ultimately. So thank you. If you're on my website, make sure you sign up to receive updates when I drop new blogs. If you're on my YouTube channel, make sure that you subscribe and give me a thumbs up. So thank you. I'm Pav. Have an awesome day.